It started with a viral video, shaky footage taken from someone's phone at a family birthday in Leytonstone nearly 7 years ago. I see myself in that clip still, even though I haven't watched it in years. 23, hopeful in a too big blazer, cheeks flush with nerves and cider, explaining to my family how my new robotics prototype could help disabled people move things around the house by themselves. I demonstrated with a little motorized arm I'd cobbled together from scraps and Arduinos. It was wonky, barely functioning, trundling across my aunt's fake marble kitchen counter. And in the video, my cousin Lauren snorts with laughter. "What, is it going to walk the dog as well, Amir?" she jeers. Uncle Yusuf says, "Why don't you invent a machine to find you a proper job?" There are faces in the background I only recognize because they're tilted away, hiding their laughter. Someone, probably Lauren, posted that clip with a caption that read, "Future king of robots, not." The comment section spiraled. Hundreds of strangers weighed in, mocking my accent, my dreams, my hands in the footage shaking with hope and embarrassment. My phone buzzed days after when it was shared to some fails account with 1 million followers. My inbox filled with notifications, old classmates, London folks who remembered me as the weird one in science club, even a few of my own family forwarding the link with emojis, crying, laughing, robot heads, rolling eyes. Mum tried to comfort me by making her famous carrot halwa that night. "People are jealous, ignore them," she said, but she didn't meet my eye. My younger sister kept her eyes glued to her phone the whole dinner, not saying a word. When the funding ran out at my undergrad lab the next month, it felt like confirmation. Maybe I was ridiculous. Maybe dreams were for people who didn't have parents working 2 jobs, who didn't hear investment and think that's next month's rent. I stopped answering calls from friends asking how the project was going. My world shrank, my phone became a pocket of dread. I took shifts at a kebab shop, chopped onions till my fingers were raw, inhaled grease that stuck in my nostrils for days. In the still, sour hours between closing up and sunrise, I'd sit at the worktop, mapping circuits in a battered notebook, fingers stained brown with meat and garlic. But every page was followed by the memory of laughter, Lauren's, Yusuf's, mine, in the days before hope seemed like something to apologize for. Still, I kept working, less out of determination than inertia. I thought, if nothing else, maybe I could find a way out through the back door. At the public library in Stratford, I borrowed books about robotics till the clerks started greeting me by name. I fiddled with broken toys I found in gutter sales. Sometimes I caught a taste, just for a moment, of how possibility had once felt. The first proper breakthrough came small. A simplified design for the joint in my original prototype, achievable using the cheap servos scavenged from remote-controlled cars. I put together something with cardboard, paracetamol blister packs, and biscuit tin lids. It worked, wobbly, unreliable, but it picked up an apple without crushing it. But cynicism had sunk in deeper than the calluses on my hands. I didn't tell anyone. My family lost interest. Whenever I was at gatherings, Uncle Yusuf would ask, "Are you still with your funny projects, Amir, or have you come to your senses yet?" Mum just sighed softly and refilled tea. Lauren got married, and there was a new batch of videos for the family to laugh over. To them, my robot experiment was a funny story, a modern fable. Remember when Amir said he would change the world and he ended up cleaning grease traps? Sometimes I would laugh with them. That seemed easier. Then, about 3 years in, things changed, though I barely registered the shift at first. I read about an online competition for low-cost disability aids. Prize money £2,000. Submission. Short video and a how-to guide. I almost skipped it. After all, my last public foray had left me a joke. But at 3 a.m., half hallucinating from fatigue, I propped my phone against the toaster, pressed record, and demonstrated the latest version. Cardboard arm, modified code, clearer speech than before. I sent it, then went straight to sleep to avoid second guessing. 3 weeks later, an email pinged at the back room of the kebab shop. I'd won. The charity sponsoring the competition wanted to fund more development, enough to build a real, durable prototype. They even attached a congratulatory note. Inspiring. "We want to help." I sat among the stacks of pita bread and mop buckets and wept, not with joy at first, just a ragged sense of self returning from exile. The next year sped by. With the small grant, I bought proper components. Steel joints, a decent microcontroller, rechargeable batteries. I moved out of Mum's 2-bed, taking a flat with space for soldering, code, and sleep. I met others online, mostly building low-cost robotics. After work at the shop, I tinkered deep into the night. Some of those nights I faced the hollow ache of rejection as if it lived in the mirror. I'd go weeks without hearing from Mum. My family assumed I was drifting, maybe worse. News of my win drifted through the grapevine, but never enough to change their minds. Nevertheless, with every revised design, the mockery faded by a degree. I entered more competitions, built up a small social media following of actual robotics enthusiasts, people who knew how hard it was to make a machine move, turn, lift, obey. I got a freelance gig coding motion routines for someone else's startup. Money came slowly, but it came. By the 5th year, I'd quit the kebab shop. I founded my own tiny company, just me, a rented shipping container in Hackney Wick and a name. Motorlink Robotics. I hired a web designer for a cheap, functional site and started emailing every NHS clinic within an hour's drive of the city, asking if they'd trial my motility assisters. To my amazement, one did. A stroke survivors group in Bermondsey. I brought the prototype, still patched and ugly but sturdier than before. The first time I watched someone who'd struggled to grasp a teacup for years use my device to make themselves a cup, I stood silent in the corridor, numb from the inside out. Word spread slowly through therapists, nurses, physiotherapists. I iterated, improved, adapted, wrote grants, landed a proper seed investment, the numbers tiny compared to Silicon Valley but enormous to me. I hired 2 engineers, then 4. Skepticism didn't disappear, it became a low murmur underneath everything else. My family, my old neighbors, gave polite nods when they saw LinkedIn updates, but skepticism was still there, like a stain that never faded. I avoided home as much as I could. Mum would text, urging me to visit. I always promised once things calmed down. But in truth, I was afraid. Afraid the old laughter would return if things slipped, if a client backed out, if my luck ran out and all I had left was those viral echoes. I kept my world small and safe. It was a BBC radio interview that changed everything. A physiotherapist I'd worked with told my story on air about a local engineer making robotic devices that leveled the playing field for ordinary people with mobility issues. Overnight, hits on our website surged. Orders came in first tens, then hundreds. I negotiated a manufacturing contract in Ilford. My face appeared on Morning London. After the segment, Mum phoned me. "Everyone's talking about you," she said, all lacing her tone. I almost dropped the phone. Lauren texted, "Well done, cousin, sorry for before." Invitations poured in. Universities wanted me to speak, journalists to profile, conferences to present. One of them was a local health fair in Walthamstow, just blocks from where the old family videos had been filmed. The organizers wanted someone from the community to show children what was possible. I hesitated. The idea of returning to the epicenter of embarrassment turned my stomach cold. But when I called Mum and told her I was thinking of saying no, she was silent, then said, "Come home, Amir. We are all proud, even if we were slow to show it." Something inside me softened. The exhibition was held in the local leisure centre, walls decorated with handmade paper chains, the scent of burnt popcorn and coffee drifting between booths. My stand was simple: 3 gleaming Motorlink arms, a portable power supply, a screen-looping Demos. Early, before the doors opened, I saw familiar local faces, neighbours, my old form tutor, aunties who'd told me to cut my hair and get a mortgage. Someone from the BBC rolled up for a follow-up interview. "Let's see it in action," she said, gesturing, and I guided her through the setup. A participant sat, slipped on the sensor glove, and the robotic arm lifted a mug and transferred a sheet of paper. When it finished, the local reporter whistled. "That's incredible," she said into her mic. A camera flash captured my awkward, delighted grin. Throughout the morning, kids gathered at my table, their parents watching warily, then with curiosity. By noon, a small crowd had formed: teachers, nurses, even a doctor I remembered from my school asthma appointments. Their faces shifted from amusement to amazement as I helped children fit the glove and watched the arm respond. A few asked about future careers. Did you need a university degree? How did you learn to build this? Was I self-taught? Then, near midday, I heard Lauren's laugh, louder, throatier now, but still unmistakable. She'd come straight from the school where she taught, 2 of her own children in tow. She stood by the back with Mum, Uncle Yusuf, and a cluster of cousins. I felt my chest clamp. Lauren ushered her kids forward, nudging them gently to say hello. "This is your cousin Amir, who builds robots for real now," she said, the corners of her mouth twitching like she was trying out the taste of the words. I swallowed. Do you want to try it? I asked her son, Reza. He nodded, shy behind thick glasses. I fitted the glove on him, explained the muscle sensors, the whisper-like pressure it took to guide the robotic hand open and closed. In moments, Reza was moving the arm, his eyes wide with delight. His mother's face softened when he turned, beaming. Yusuf watched, the traces of his old skepticism yielding to something else. It's a clever thing you've made, Amir, he said after a long silence. Does it only work for people who can't use their hands? Could it help the old too? His voice was quieter, curious rather than dismissive. It's designed to be modular, I said. Anyone who struggles with daily movement can adapt it, that's the hope. He nodded, stroking his beard in a way that nearly made me laugh, memories colliding with the present. Mum dabbed her eyes, arms folded as if hugging herself. She did not say anything right away, but took my hand later, squeezing so hard it hurt. That afternoon, the leisure centre filled with chatter. Even Lauren took a turn, laughing. You'll have to rig me up for home, I swear. Her tone was playful, not mocking. Someone who had once tagged me in that viral video came over, awkwardly asking for a selfie with my robot. You showed them, he said. As the sun streamed in through the translucent roof panels, the light shifted on the robot arms, the metal gleaming, each servos were a soft promise of forward motion. The line at my stand swelled again. Parents queued, asking about NHS referrals, funding, whether they could buy one. Skeptics from old, among them neighbours who'd called me delusional and uncles who'd dismissed me outright, stood near the front, disbelief mingling with reluctant pride. I saw it on their faces as the robot lifted a book, poured water, drew clean lines, obeying a child's tremulous intent. And for the first time, the laughter was not pointed, not exclusionary. It circled warmly around us, celebration rather than derision. That night we all squeezed into Mum's flat for a meal, samosas, biryani, carrot halwa. The rooms were too small, the air thick with spice and recirculated heat, walls crowded with family photos. I climbed onto the same seat where I'd once endured laughter and this time found my own. I showed the youngest cousins how to program a servo using a tablet. They crowded close, fascinated, not scornful. After everyone else had left, after Mum had tucked herself into bed, I wandered out into the back garden, clutching a mug of sweet tea. London's east side sprawled in silent silhouette, lights burning from 1,000 windows. I listened. To the distant rumble of late trains, the muted pulse of a city that had never stopped doubting, never fully believed. And above that, the gentler music of home, laughter, conversation, the sound of hope returning to old places. It was not perfect, not every skeptic convinced, not every old wound mended. But I knew now success did not erase rejection, nor did it require it. Instead, it transformed it, loss reconstructed. Above the garden, the sky was bruising into indigo, and I let myself breathe, grateful, not for vindication, though it tasted sweet, but for the smallness and vastness of what I'd made, and for the chance to bring that home. The city did not care, not really, about one man's redemption, but my family did, my community did, and beneath the laughter and noise and long, weighty silences, I'd built something that might endure out of circuit boards and wire and the memory of dreams that once seemed ridiculous.